What is up? So I don't upload to this channel a lot. I need to do more of that as well as continue the podcast, and I've got some ideas and things moving forward, but there's no promises being made as usual. But this video I've done in the past. I don't know if I've done it on this channel, um, but I have done this kind of video, or I've written this kind of post on my different social medias back in the past and had these conversations with friends. Is what was some of the most important things you've learned this year? And this year, I would say, has been a very transformative year for me uh, in a lot of ways. And so these are not all the things that I've learned this year, but they are definitely a few of the more important things that I've learned this year. And some of these things have been previous things that I've learned or I've heard, but it's taken a long time to really hit and take an effect. But first and foremost, it's not necessarily ranked by importance or in the order that I learned it. I'm just rattling them off. But health is genuinely wealth. I've heard this phrase before, but I've only really come to realize it more recently towards the end of the year. I just ended up having some health issues that I didn't realize I necessarily even had. And now I'm realizing as I've treated them and I've gotten better that all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a whole nother world for me of no pain and aches and struggles with certain things. And it's genuinely a life changing experience to feel that. Because for me, it was kind of slow over time deterioration. Just turned out that I had Lyme's disease, and then there's a few things wrong, my back and my neck, and my nervous system that I'm getting figured out. But the Lyme's disease, especially, like I've probably had it for a while now, and I didn't even realize it. Um, and now treating it, I'm realizing how amazing I feel beyond my back issues and whatnot. But yeah, it's just kind of like just incredible, a really great feeling. So I've always heard this phrase before, but it took me a while to really, really let it hit home. Especially, I mean, it's until you get hit with something yourself, right? So next is wealth is deeper than aesthetics. Um, Now, aesthetics, a lot of times people will think that comes from a perspective of like trying to please people, but it's not always that. Sometimes it's just for yourself too. You want something that is nice or looks nice because of yourself. And then you realize, well, it doesn't actually add any value to my life. Um, what really adds value is value, to be honest. And so this has definitely affected my financial situation in life and how I perceive spending money and the poor man's mentality versus a wealthy man's mentality, which is a whole separate topic, but kind of ties into this, and it's really taken effect this year for me. um but third on the list is reading is almost never a waste of time. I have spent a lot more time reading as of late. The last couple days, even, I've spent hours reading before bed. And I can't say that any time that I've read that much, a significant amount of time, have I ever felt like I wasted my time. And I'm not reading anything life changing. Well, I'm not. I should reword that. I'm not reading anything like nonfiction, life changing, like some great revelation in reading. I'm reading fiction, and even that leaves me with the feeling of I'm not losing my time. I'm adding value to my life. Now, I'm sure there's things that you could read that could really take away from the value of your life and how you feel. But ultimately, reading has benefited me in more ways than one. Just learning new words, wanting to be more articulate, all these different things, changing my perspective on how I view certain topics in the world and how I view situations, because it causes you to think. Because that's the interesting thing about reading a book, especially fiction, is it causes you to read about situations that somebody created from different perspectives and perspective that you maybe wouldn't have. And it puts you in their situation, debating on whether you would make their same decision. It's kind of an inspiration as well, as I write my fictional novel, of cool themes and ways to write, and talk through words on a page. So reading has, to me, been no waste of time, and I've read more this year than I probably ever have. I mean, the other night I read for 3 hours straight before bed, and the last time that I did that was, I don't know if I ever have. No, sixth grade. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was going to come out, and I wanted to read the book before it came out. And I remember as a kid, I read that book nonstop, but I was a very slow reader. I still am pretty slow, but yeah, I haven't read like that since sixth grade, and now I'm reading like that pretty consistently almost every day. So it's been pretty great. Next is nothing changes by time. Change changes things. There's probably a way better way to word that, and I've seen quotes about it. But time doesn't change anything. Change changes things. And people will always say time will tell, or time heals all wounds, or whatever it is. But in reality, there's so much that we need to do and contribute to our own health, and whether that be physical, mental, spiritual, we have to do something about it. We can't sit back and hope it happens. We have to change things. And I'm not talking about a 180, because in my life, this year has been some drastic changes for me in the later half of the year, where I just slowly started to make some changes, just a couple degrees at a time. And I'm back to the 180 reference, but just a couple changes at a time, a couple degrees at a time, and slowly it really gets you off the course you were on that was maybe causing so many problems. And it takes a risk sometimes, and it takes stepping out of your comfort zone, but a comfort zone is where you go to die. So that's just the truth. So next is take care of what matters. I am the kind of guy who wants to relax every day. Like if I get some time at the end of the day to read, to play some video games, watch a movie, or if it's like nice weather, that's stuff that I do when it's more so like winter. But if it's nice weather, I like to, go catch 9 holes, or, get out and go for a walk, or fish, things that are kind of relaxing and resting, but not necessarily complete like sleep, right? I like to do those things every day, just an hour or two at the end of the day, or beginning of the day, like early morning 9 holes, or early morning fishing, kayaking, stuff like that. My wife is the opposite. She's the let's binge work and then go on a vacation. I don't need a vacation because I take a mini vacation every day. Now, it doesn't mean I slough off and don't do work. I will always prioritize if something for work comes up, I'll skip what I'm doing and go do it. But I'm just saying that's what I try to do to manage my mental health and emotional health and so on and so forth. But I'll tell you what, when you try to do those things in place of what matters, if you didn't take care of what matters first, and then you try to go do those things, they'll be undermined and they won't actually benefit you. And then it becomes an escape from reality. And then when you escape reality, you're not dealing with the things that matter. They deteriorate because they need to be taken care of to maintain them. This could affect relationships or literal, physical, tangible things, spiritual things, emotional, mental, so on and so forth. It take care of what matters. And if you don't, then you're going to want to avoid them even more. And so then you run to the escape more, and then it just doesn't work. And then it creates this cycle of broken down things around you, and then you end up depressed. And so you have to take care of what matters, because the escapes from reality that we use are dopamine rushes, but they're not meant to be what is a healthy dopamine. The healthy dopamine is doing the things that matter and build us up. And when we don't do those things, which ties into a later point that I'm going to make, when we don't do those things, it really leaves us hanging. So we need to take care of what matters before we do anything else, which ties into the next one, actually. You can't do everything. My wife reminds me of this all the time, because I want to, in a day, I want to go to work. I want to do chores at the house. I want to spend quality time with her alone, spend quality time with her and the kids, spend time with the kids, go on a date, relaxation time, read, play video games, or golf and fish. And I want to do everything in one day. And you can't do that. You just can't. And that's okay. But you need to be able to accept that, because you're going to overstress yourself, as well as you're going to become upset that you didn't complete something on your list. And then it causes an unhealthy mindset. And so you need to recognize you can't do everything. And that's why you need to take care of what matters first. Because what shouldn't happen is that you sacrifice what matters for what is just relaxation. There's a time and a place for that. And ultimately, you need to take care of what matters, and you need to recognize you can't do everything. One on this list that I have done in the past and has stuck with me for a long, long time, but I need to continually remind myself is it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to admit that you're wrong to somebody. It's okay to say sorry. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to be humble, because if we can't admit that we're wrong, we will be prideful and haughty, and pridefulness is something that the Lord hates. And so we need to be careful of that. We need to be able to admit when we're wrong, not just to God, but to people around us. And we need to be able to accept that, because then we can admit it and we can fix it. If we don't admit we're wrong, we'll never fix it. The last two are a little more philosophical, and they're quotes that I'll probably butcher, but I will try to do my best to explain them as much as I can. But there were quotes this year that really impacted me. But the first one is a person without purpose will distract themselves with pleasure. And it's true. This is the one that I was kind of tying to take care of what matters, is we have distracted ourselves with pleasures consistently in this day and age. And we have caused a almost deterioration of our brain in the way that we were made to have dopamine and all these different things. And it's why we see struggles with depression and anxiety, because we're not balancing that out with a sustainable dopamine and a sustainable purpose in our life. And I believe God's purpose for our life can drastically be different at different times, but also different to different people. And you need to be willing to take the chance. And that's part of the problem, is people aren't willing to take the chance to find their purpose and what is fulfilling and what will genuinely make them better. And I myself saw that in a lot of different ways throughout this year, and it just was weird. I don't know. It was something that once I found out, once I realized this, once I read this, once I saw it, I was so upset. I was angry with myself that I let myself do this for years and years and years. Like, since my early 20s. I mean, I felt like I had purpose, but then I was also distracting myself with pleasure because I wasn't genuinely living my purpose to 100%. And so that's affected me to even now, where it's like, man, I need to find my purpose, my drivenness, the thing that makes me feel, I need to be better with words. I've been reading a lot, but apparently not enough, because I don't have the words to describe this exact thing. But we will distract ourselves with pleasures, and then we will end up just doing that until we're dead and leaving so much on the table and so much in our life, which goes to the next one, which is a man should never fear death, but fear never beginning. Ties to another quote that I'll throw in as an honorable mention, is that, some people die at 25, but don't get buried until they're 80. And it's funny, when we fear death, what ends up happening is we end up not living, which is weird, because the whole point of fearing death is so that we can live this life. But when we fear death so much, we stop living. We stop trying. We stop taking chances. And I think there's a difference between reckless chances of just like, oh, you probably will die versus like, chances that aren't the end of the world. And I think sometimes we fear that too much. And I know that me, myself, that quote hit me. And it wasn't so much the fear of death, which I've struggled with, but it's more so the never beginning, the never taking the chance to live. And so I've had to work at that and become better at that for sure. But those are some things that I took away from this year, that I learned this year, that impacted me this year. Hopefully they impact you as well and make a difference in your life. I would love to know in the comments down below what you yourself have gone through this year that you learned the biggest lesson, or what stood out to you the most this year in your 2024 heading into 2025. All right. God bless you guys. We'll love you. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.